Campaign 2020 coverage.
Get up, take back our country. This is the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together.
Roaring end to a victory speech there. Joe Biden projected to win the South Carolina primary.
That brings the former vice president to second place in the national overall delegate estimate right now. We're going to take a look at those results as they are here on the screen. With 92% precincts reporting, it appears Joe Biden has a very firm lead, 49% of the vote to Bernie Sanders, 20%. Tom Steyer and Pete Buttigieg bringing up the rear, 11% and 8%.
And the final few vote getters here, you have Elizabeth Warren with 7%, followed by Amy Klobuchar at 3%, Tulsi Gabbard tonight at 1% of those votes. And we have team coverage tonight of those Democratic primary results. Alrighty, continuing with our election coverage now, where Joe Biden projected to win the state's primary.
Our Rob Way was up in Columbia this evening, where the candidate and his entire team celebrated.
Joe Biden has long called South Carolina his firewall, and it looks like that wall is going to hold tonight. Joe Biden took the stage just a few hours ago. That is when he was greeted with massive amounts of cheers from his supporters here in Columbia. Now, the former vice president was projected the winner just minutes after polls closed, and the energy in this room quickly changed. During his speech, he said he plans to build on President Obama's legacy and says that South Carolina just helped launch his campaign to take on Donald Trump. But in his speech, it didn't take long for him to look ahead to the importance of the state's voting next week.
This is the moment, and it's arrived. Maybe sooner than anyone guessed it would, but it's here. And the decisions Democrats make all across America in the next few days will determine what this party stands for, what we believe, and what we'll get done. If Democrats nominate me, I believe we can beat Donald Trump.
Joe Biden's campaign staffers tell us that Congressman Jim Clyburn, who introduced him tonight and gave him that endorsement just a few days ago, will be campaigning for Biden up in North Carolina tomorrow. Of course, that Clyburn endorsement was massive. It meant a lot to voters, too. According to CBS News exit poll, almost half of Democratic primary voters here in South Carolina counted that as an important factor in their vote cast today. In Columbia, Rob Way, Live 5 News.
All right, thanks, Rob. And as Biden is celebrating tonight, another candidate has called it quits. He's dropping out of the race just hours after the polls closed.
Tom Steyer dropping out of the race. Danielle's seat was in Columbia, where he made that announcement tonight.
This will now be the last stop for Tom Steyer following an emotional speech where he expressed his disappointment and said he can now not see a path that will take him to the presidency. But he also added that this has been the best experience of his life. Steyer did end up finishing with about 11% of the vote, coming in at third place, which is where polls projected him to finish over the last few weeks. And I can tell you this room has been full for hours with people having fun, eating, drinking, and even doing some dancing. People I spoke to traveled from all around the state, coming into the night very hopeful. But again, no shortage of excitement, even after they heard that Biden was already projected to win.
I, of course, will be supporting. I've said from the beginning, every Democrat is a million times better than Trump. Trump is a disaster.
Now, following that emotional speech, Tom Steyer did say in the end that when the Lord closes a door, he opens a window. In Columbia, I'm Danielle C., Live 5 News.
He says you can't win them all. Bernie Sanders already looking ahead to Super Tuesday. He had a rally tonight in Virginia.
But many of his supporters were here watching in South Carolina as those votes started to roll in.
Lillian Donahue spoke with some of them tonight.
I'm here at Local 616. This is where dozens of Bernie supporters have been here tonight watching those votes roll in. I'm joined by one, Wyatt. You've been here for just a little bit. How are you feeling? Obviously, he didn't win that top spot in the state.
It doesn't feel great, but we anticipated something close to this result. We're happy with a solid second place finish, and I feel like in a general election, the Bernie voters will come out when Bernie is the nominee, and we'll deliver a very good effort in this state for the general.
Do you think that Biden will ride this momentum, or do you think Sanders can maybe do a surprise upset come in the next few days on Super Tuesday?
Sanders polling very well in California and Texas. My message to all the Bernie supporters out there is keep fighting, fight hard, we're gonna win.
I did speak with Sanders one-on-one on Wednesday when he was here in North Charleston talking to voters before that rally. He discussed with me whomever wins that nomination for the Democratic Party, everyone else, all those candidates, no matter who it is, needs to rally behind him if they have any chance of standing up against Trump come November. Reporting in Charleston, Lillian Donahue, Live 5 News.
And one candidate who came out on top during early races in Iowa and New Hampshire didn't do as well here in South Carolina.
Harv Jacobs tells us why Pete Buttigieg says this is not the end for him.
As the ballot boxes came into the Charles County election warehouse, it was clear that Pete Buttigieg would not come out on top. However, Buttigieg says he's not giving up his fight to win the Democratic nomination. Buttigieg spent a lot of time campaigning in the state and right here in the Low Country. The former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, had his work cut out trying to get the African-American vote. In an interview this morning with our sister station, WIS in Columbia, Buttigieg said he's reaching out to black voters who, quote, have felt taken for granted again and again and again by politics as usual. He said he's looking forward now to Super Tuesday.
I think we're going to head into Super Tuesday with a lot of strength. Look, voters in the end are going to make the decision. And my job is to go out eye to eye and ask those voters for their support.
During this morning's interview, Buttigieg said he will support whoever wins the Democratic nomination, even if it's Senator Bernie Sanders. However, he said he's concerned if Sanders does get the nomination, that the Democrats may lose some House and Senate seats. At the election warehouse in Charleston County, Harv Jacobs, Live 5 News.
And Senator Elizabeth Warren's campaign quickly moving now on to other states.
Caitlin Stansel was at her local office in North Charleston where volunteers were already shutting down their operations before the polls even closed.
Even before results were in for the First in the South primary, volunteers for Elizabeth Warren's campaign were closing up shop here today at her office in North Charleston, taking down signs and posters and turning out the lights. They have spent a considerable amount of time campaigning here in the Palmetto State for the Massachusetts senator, but now that attention is shifting to the Super Tuesday states, the 14 states that will have primaries on March 3rd. She spoke to voters in Arkansas today about the big structural change she wants to bring to Washington and her aspirations to be the woman who defeats President Donald Trump in his bid for re-election. But her more pressing test now is to set herself apart from her Democratic competitors Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Sanders right now leading in her home state of Massachusetts.
This is the moment to choose courage over cynicism. This is the moment to dream big, fight hard, and win.
While Warren did finish ahead of her fellow female Democratic candidates, results showed she still trailed behind the 4 men on the ballot here in South Carolina. From North Charleston, Caitlin Stansel, Live 5 News.
Meanwhile, the next big race for those Democratic candidates coming up soon, just a few days away. There are more than 1,300 delegates up for grabs in 14 states on Super Tuesday. That's more than a third of what is needed to win the nomination.